Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm here again with my co-host, Michael. I'm Jay, of course. I don't think either one of us have a lot of rage today. I think we were both pretty content with what Ohio State did yesterday. A lot of great things. I really like what they did to mix up the offense, but it was exciting times in college football, a lot of crazy games. I think the Colorado versus Stanford game might have been the best game I've seen all freaking season. And if you were a night owl like myself and stayed up till 2 a.m. in the morning, you saw that on ESPN. Amazing game between two terrible teams, by the way, but just so much fun. And that is why college football is just the best sport in America, and it's not even close. Michael, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Good weekend. The Buckeyes won. Bengals won 2 in a row. So I'm happy for the day. It was a great weekend.
And the Titans lost. Thank God. I saw them on TV a little bit today. I looked at them for a moment. I was like, I hope they lose. And I saw Tannehill got hurt. That's good. That means they're probably going to lose some more. Malik Willis is terrible. I don't know anything about the guy we got from Kentucky. So we'll see on that. But before we start this podcast, I just want to say prayers. Again, this literally happened like not long before we filmed last week's podcast. But I just wanted to get it out there that Michael and we just want to say we've been praying for Israel. The stuff that I have read about what has happened to that country and those innocent people is absolutely insane and evil, despicable. Those terrorists in Hamas are some of the most evil sons of bitches I've probably ever seen. Like, they're worse than probably Nazis. It's disgusting. To hear about those little kids and the babies and what they have done. Prayers to Israel, man. Like, again, that country is just surrounded by a bunch of evil countries. Michael, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously a really bad situation. And yeah, it's sad to see. And I think the bottom line is, at this point, the Israeli-Palestinian it just hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. And so I think that hopefully the world will just support them no longer trying to make that work. I think Israel just has to take that back, and they cannot let, arch enemies live right across their borders anymore. This is an experiment that just failed. And so, it's unfortunate, sad, but it's time for them to move on, and it's time for the world to support that. And I hope that, most of the world, at least the Western world, will.
Yeah, man. I will say this. Fuck Palestine and fuck anyone who supports them. I'll gladly say that. They're a bunch of fucking terrorists there, because I'll tell you that, number one, throughout history, Israel has only given up more of their land, only to be attacked by other countries. And then number two, you have to understand, those sick fucks in Palestine, I'm not even talking about Hamas, Palestine are the ones that were celebrating when 9/11 happened, when those two planes hit the Twin Towers and the Pentagon and all of that other craziness back 22 years ago. Fuck them, man. You saw those people on the streets, the evil fucks, man. I hope Israel wipes them out. I really do. I hope they just wipe out all of them. I hope they wipe out Hamas, anybody who gets in their way. So prayers to Israel. I hope they get it done, man. I really do. And Iran better not intervene.
Yep.
Hopefully Joe Biden doesn't have actually has a spine and helps.
I think it'd be tough not to help them in this. It's an awful attack. And
yeah.
Jay, on a happier note, speaking of attack.
Real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say before we switch to sports, I think that's where we're going.
Well,
I just got done watching in a happier note, I just got done watching Blade 1 and 2. With my wife, because we're still in Halloween season. So the Blade movies are on the Max. Have you seen those?
No.
You have not seen the Blade movies. Man,
no,
how have you not seen Blade? Oh my God, man. I just posted something on Facebook. I just want to let you, anytime I watch the Blade movies, I just want to go outside and kick fucking ass and roundhouse kick somebody in the face. Hell, I'll roundhouse kick Hamas in the face and then break their necks while I'm at it, man. Wesley Snipes, again, he's a legit martial artist now. He's not just a normal
Him and
actor.
Joe Rogan were scheduled to fight at one point.
Yes, they were scheduled to fight. Yeah, I would have loved to have seen that. Joe Rogan probably would have kicked his ass. but I would have loved to have seen it. Like, Wesley Snipes, he's a black belt in Shotokan, and I think, man, what was the other one? I forget. There was another one that he was a Hapkido. So yeah, he's like a legit guy. But man, those movies, man, it's vampires. Vampires. He's basically like a day walker. He can walk in the sun. He has all the vampires' powers, but he doesn't have any of their weaknesses. So I absolutely love those movies, man. Blades 1 and 2 are like, childhood favorites of mine. I had to turn it on. My wife really hadn't seen them before. She liked them. Not really her cup of tea, but hey, they're my favorites. So yeah,
well,
I had to like mention that, man, just because I love Blade. And I will say this, not to like get too much into politics, but I know everybody wants to talk about Black Panther and stuff like, oh, first black superhero, this, that, and the other. That was never really a discussion back in like 1998, 2002, because really it was, I'm sure there are other people even before Blade, but if you would have talked the way people talk about now about like minorities having roles in movies and stuff, like somebody in the late 90s and early 2000s will look at you like, are you fucking weird?
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah.
Like we didn't look at somebody by the color of their skin or what they look like.
And characters were better back then. They wrote characters better because they didn't, it wasn't just about a color and a gender and this, that, and the other. It was about making a good character and finding an actor that fit that character.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this though too. The Marvel movies were done right. And then like Endgame was an amazing movie itself, but there was a little bit intertwined in there. And then Marvel post Endgame has been an absolute disaster, and it should be nuked off the planet. Just done. I just get that little geekiness out there. Just love the Blade movies, hate what Marvel has become now, and restore the Snyderverse. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, there we go.
All right, Michael, man, let's get to it, dude. We just had a big win yesterday. Start us off, sir.
Well, yeah, it was a therapeutic weekend for me. I was all of the angst and all of the aggravation, everything that I had last week, I just was able to let it go this week. I knew this was not going to be a difficult game. Come in, take a look and see what they do. And, it's Purdue, so it means nothing, but it did feel like a step forward to me, whereas Maryland did not. Even though Maryland is better competition, it did not feel like a step forward in the areas that needed to step forward. And then this game did. So really, to sum this game up, that's the way that I look at it. I do view it as a step forward. And Absolutely. So, I know that you weren't in love with what you saw with Kyle McCord running the football from what you sent me. Okay.
So I will say this to start us off, my thoughts on this game. Before I even get into Ohio State, let me just mention Peacock, what it was on, like the streaming service. I just want to say that Peacock is god fucking awful.
Really? Did you had a bad experience with it?
It was a terrible experience. I feel terrible for all of the people that actually had to subscribe to such a garbage service, whether they paid money or not. Yeah. Because again, they're gonna have to pay. They're gonna have to cancel like down the line to make sure they don't get charged for it. Now, again, I was streaming it on one of my favorite internet sites, so maybe I didn't have quite the experience, but I did hear that there were some people that actually had it loaded and the game went out for a little bit and then came back on. So a little bit of choppiness there. The picture was not great, and the announcers were definitely C tier. The announcers did not like Ohio State. I could tell by just the way they announced the game. They were definitely like, they got a little bit more excited for Purdue. Like, oh, he could take this a long way if he slipped a tackle, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They really did not like Ohio State. Kyle Rudolph, who was like the color analyst, former Notre Dame tight end, kind of like more or less admitted, I'm pissed off about the game a couple weeks ago. And he was definitely pulling for Purdue.
Well, I mean, you've got the guy from Notre Dame, but I mean, you look stupid sitting up there rooting for Purdue. I mean, that's like Alabama playing Vanderbilt and you sitting up there going, oh boy, I really hope Vanderbilt wins. Like, be a realist, be a professional and do your job. Like Purdue wasn't winning that game. Like, there's no reason to act excited when they do one of the few positive things that they're going to do, in the entire 60 minutes.
Well, I will say this fuck Kyle Rudolph because, he's a fucking traitor. He's from Cincinnati and he went to Notre Dame. I forgot about that. Did you know that?
Yeah, well, not really. Now that
Yeah,
you
he
said
went to
it,
one
it
of the
seems to ring a
he
bell.
went to one of the GCL schools. I forget which one he went to, but yeah, he was from the GCL, man, of course, where like what the best football was played, not now. I don't
Mhm.
know what's happened to the GCL the last couple of years, man. You'd be more of an expert on that than me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been a power shift, but yeah, I mean, there's still some talent in the GCL. It's just things have shifted around in Cincinnati.
Yeah, the Northeast Ohio has all the best teams now. You got Hoban, you have
Hmm.
Lakeland St. Ed's, you have Matt.
Hmm.
Well, I don't. Massillon always will choke. They'll choke like they
Yeah, I
always.
mean, down here, you've got Mollert still good. You've got Saint
Bowler lost
X.
all of their top games against all the out-of-state teams. I can't throw them in there this year.
Well, I'm saying generally speaking, as a program,
Yeah,
they're a very good program. Saint X is a very good program. Lakota is a very good program. City School and another city school, Winton Woods, is developed several Division One players and a handful of big
yeah.
time Division One players.
Somebody on
So
Ohio State too. I'll talk
yeah.
about him in a little bit.
Hmm.
Well, yeah. So Peacock sucked. Didn't like it. I basically had to change inputs every time I was on my TV if I wanted to watch another game. It was like they didn't really have commercials, which is fine. I hate commercials. People talk to
Hmm.
me like, "Oh, did you see that commercial?" No, I didn't. I changed the channel for commercials because 99% of commercials fucking suck. The only time I'll entertain it is the Super Bowl. Um,
Hmm.
Speaking about McCord, though, first and foremost, I like that he's a willing runner. I don't know if we should have designed runs for him because he does look like a fish out of water. But I'm glad that they had him keep the zone read ones. But he pretty much like fell down after 5 yards. I don't think he
Yeah, but
wanted
I
to
mean, he
fall down.
still got 9 yards. It was nine free
Yeah,
yards. So I
I
mean,
know. He should have
you've
had
got to
like
take
15.
those from time to time.
No, no,
Yeah,
absolutely. He's a willing runner,
yeah.
but he's just a bad athlete trying to run north and south. But I will say this: outside, he, I'm starting to really trust him. I think we really have something with Kyle McCord as a quarterback.
Mhm.
As long as we're throwing to set up the run, throwing out of the spread, more out of shotgun. Stop going under center. This isn't what Ohio State. That's not what Ryan Day is. They've been going under center too much this year. Stay out of the spread, stay in shotgun. We scored a lot more, yesterday because we ran out of the spread. Did you notice that, Michael? We
Yeah.
were like throwing and trusting McCord more.
Well, I mean, last week I said that I didn't understand why we were bringing so many people into the box, like needlessly. Like, why are we, making it harder on purpose? And they didn't do that this week, so that's good. So hopefully, that's going to be more of the plan moving forward.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Again, I mean, we'll talk about next week's game here, and obviously it's a massive, massive game. But I really, really do like. We definitely took. I would almost say we took 2 steps forward this game because
Hmm.
you look at Purdue's schedule; they do suck, and I about nailed this score.
Hmm.
Purdue did. I will say this: our defense was,
What
had
was the final score again?
41-7.
See, I think I picked 38-10, so I was pretty close too. I was
Yeah,
right in the
I think
ballpark.
I had like 40. I don't know. I think I had like 42-10 or something. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. Go watch our podcast last week, people. Speaking of our podcast, please like and subscribe to the video and our podcast. Like the video, subscribe to the podcast. It's simple. Like this video, sign in with your Gmail account in the top right hand corner there where you see the symbol, the little human symbol thing. Uh, log into your Gmail account, subscribe, and like the video. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, I lost my train of thought. What the fuck was I just saying?
Well, Purdue, they took 2 steps forward, you said. At least a step and a
Yes,
half. They
they
took a
took two
significant
steps
jump.
forward on offense. Absolutely. Defense is basically maintained, but on offense, by keeping Kyle McCord more in the shotgun, because Purdue, give them they came to play, man. They were blitzing like crazy. They were coming
Mhm.
after Kyle McCord. They're like, fuck it. We don't think this guy's very good. We're gonna blitz the hell out of him. And they did get 3 sacks. They did, and then had a strip fumble on him. So
Yeah.
they got after him a little bit. Our pass protect that was the hardest game we've had from a pass protection perspective all season, including Notre Dame.
Yep.
So something to be aware of, because Penn State's going to blitz the hell out of us. They always do. But again, McCord, very, very good. His receivers really let him down, or else he would have had over 300 some yards receiving. And I just want to point something out. So I just said that, the receivers let him down. You know, here's a statement that can be looked at as really bad or really good. There's not a lot of in between. I think it's more in between, but I'm starting to get like Braylon Edward vibes from Marvin Harrison.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Marvin's a great player. So, I mean, it's just kind of a matter of how good he's going to be. We knew he was very good. And, how will he finish off this season? I mean, that's the question, because is he going to just continue to be very good, or is he going to like jump out to that next level of actually living up to the hype? And when I say the hype, I'm not saying that he's not a great player. I'm just saying that, people saying that he's the best receiver prospect, since, Johnson,
I think
and
like,
all
yeah, Calvin Johnson,
Calvin
Julio
Johnson,
Jones.
and all these different things. For him to be that, he still has a little step to take, and maybe he'll take it. But I do think, Jay, that one of the big things about this game that is a positive.
He had 4 drops, is what I'm saying. He had like 3 or 4 drops. That's what I was getting at with Braylon Edwards. Did you know that?
I mean, Marvin has he has dropped a few balls this year, so I don't know.
He dropped like 3 yesterday. He dropped like 1 that was like, I think it was like a 2nd and 15. It would have been a first down. Like,
yeah, I mean, sometimes receivers go through this. I mean, T. Higgins for the Bengals, he's doing the same thing this year. He's dropping balls. Well, Why? I don't know,
dude. What the fuck, man? You can't like. Somebody told me like, man, do they need to bench Marvin Harrison to get his head straight? Because I honestly think like Braylon Edwards like he dropped some passes in Michigan, but he kind of got that in the NFL, dropping too many passes. But he honestly is starting to remind me of Braylon Edwards, like, super talented guy. I don't think he's as talented as Braylon Edwards, because I think Braylon was a tiny bit faster and he was a leaper. I mean, Marvin's a little bigger, but man, I swear, when I watch, you go back and watch Braylon Edwards highlights, like, he might have been the most dominant college receiver I've damn near ever seen. But again, that's not really a slight on Marvin. He would be, he should be happy if he had the career that Braylon Edwards had, being the number 3 overall pick, having a Pro Bowl, being in the NFL for like 8 or 9 seasons. Like, most people would take that. Marvin Harrison would take that.
But, I think, kind of shifting gears a little bit, the thing that I saw that I think is the most encouraging from the Indiana game is that Ryan Day went to the drawing board and seems to have kind of reframed the run blocking to more of just a straightforward gap scheme, and not doing all of the zone stretch and different things that we were very, very unsuccessful at the entire season up to this point. So hopefully this game shows him that this offensive line is not suited towards that. They do much better with just kind of a straightforward gap fit, and move forward with that and see if you can get some traction with it. Moving, Penn State and going on into the Michigan game.
I agree. And I have a follow-up question for you.
Yeah.
Is Dallin Hayden the best running back on the team?
Well, I don't know, because, the reason I am not convinced of that is because what they did yesterday was just different than what they had done the previous game. So if they gave, some of the other running backs some of those same holes, would they have, did he do anything that we haven't seen a couple of the other running backs do? No, not necessarily. It's just that we hadn't really seen him do it this year. And the blocking has been so bad this year. I don't know if I'm ready to make that jump yet, but I certainly think he's right there with about any of them.
Do you think it's the right idea to be redshirting him?
Well, I mean, I think we're having to trust the coach's judgment there, because what they're communicating to us is that maybe he's even with the other 3 at best, but there's nothing that he has that's going to make a significant impact on this team, or he would be playing. That's what they're telling us. So do I believe them? I don't know. That the other day makes it maybe that I at least kind of question them, like, are you doing the right thing? But we'll see how the other running backs do as they continue to kind of change the way they approach the run game.
I will say this. I do think he adds one element that the other running backs don't have, and that element is it's an intangible thing.
Mhm.
Vision. He seems to have better vision than any of our other backs. Like Travion has got the speed. I've been critical of him being a home run hitter, but I think he actually is one now. Mayan has got power, and uh, I guess Demonte Trayanum is kind of like a mix of both. But Hayden always seems to run to the right spot and get as much as he can with what's there, and shows patience. Or the other running, Travion maybe bounces it too much. Maybe the same with Mayan, and Trayanum as well, where Hayden's patience and vision. Again, he's not an overly powerful back. He is not a burner by any means, but he might be what this offense needs the most to move the chains,
Yeah, I
to
mean, he's
set up
definitely
the
good.
explosive
He's
plays
definitely a
with
good
our
solid
receivers.
back. Who knows when Henderson's going to be back? I mean, it's 2 weeks going on.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, is he going to be back Penn State? Who knows?
yeah.
And if he's not going to be back for the next 2-3 weeks, I say you just put put him in there and let him start playing, and just move on without Henderson, because it just seems like. And what's frustrating is that Ryan Day won't
Get a
let us know
class.
what's going on. He, right up until the game, like, all indication is Henderson's fine. It was just a little thing that they set out last week, and now he's ready to go. And now they're not going to play this week either. So is it one of those things that they're literally just being very precautious and making sure that he's 100% healthy for the Penn State game? Or is there an issue there again this year that, he actually is hurt and may or may not come back the rest of the season? Because that's what happened last year, and they never told us.
I will say this: if he is actually hurt, I don't see him playing in the NFL next year. The NFL, I would not touch him if I were an NFL
I
GM
mean, maybe
because
fifth round, fifth, sixth
hey,
round.
but you're still investing in somebody you expect to be like playing. He doesn't play. He missed like half of last year. He's missed already a couple games this year. He hasn't shown the consistency
Mm-mm.
to play. Like, yeah, I think he's a good player when he plays. Yeah, but if he's not, you can be good at something, but if you're not participating, what good are you to the cause?
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of along those lines. He's got to show that he can stay healthy. But again, there's one
My
rule
my
that changed.
back is killing me. So I'm gonna like lean back here in my chair. My back
What
was just
happened to
like,
your back, bro? What
it's
happened?
just hurting. Don't worry about it. It's just real. I've had problems with it for like the last 9-10 months. Like, it comes and goes.
Oh shit, man! It's not that Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Well, that may have started the problem, but
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm still recovering from like a degenerative ankle and knee. That's never
Mm,
going to get better. One of these
yeah.
days, I'm going to have like an ankle and knee replacement on the same side. So that's going to be fun when I'm in
That's
my
not that
60s.
that sounds awful. But yeah, no, I'm
Yeah, man.
good. I'm just gonna sit back like this, and now you know why.
All right, I just killed a bug, people. Just if you could wonder why I clapped my hands, there's a bug like floating around in front of me. I had to kill it. Doyle
So,
told me earlier.
the defense, offense, we got running back, a question. The offensive line looked better. McCord looked pretty good. Defense, obviously that's more the same. Everything looked, for the most part, everything looked pretty good. I still don't understand why we're not being more aggressive, getting Hicks some time at linebacker. I don't get
Yeah,
it.
he
I don't
did.
understand it.
Yeah.
Why are we not using some of these games to, get this kid time? Because, maybe Jim Knowles never plays him, Jay. But even if he doesn't play him, what happens if one of those two guys go down? What happens if Steel Chambers goes down? Why would you not have had this kid in the game to get an extra 150 snaps of live action? It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that they're putting Tommy and Steele out there literally every play, all game.
Well, I'll tell you something. There was actual rotation yesterday. Cody Simon,
Yeah, I know Cody Simon's getting to play some.
No, he played a lot yesterday, actually. He played quite a bit. And I will say this. I love Steel Chambers. He has a soft spot in my heart because he had that interception against Georgia. And then, in the post game, like,
I've never thought he was that good, Jay.
I
I've
think in
always
2021,
thought he was a very mediocre linebacker. Like I thought you've been very generous to him with the way that you have
I have a soft spot in my heart for Steel
I
Chambers.
know
Don't
I
ask me
can
why.
tell because it's like he's never been a great top level linebacker. He's a mediocre linebacker, like above average.
Maybe because somebody told me, like, back in the day, like, they went to a high school game where Steel Chambers was playing against Trevor Lawrence in high school, Steel Chambers
Mhm.
being a year younger. But they told me after that game that Steel Chambers was the best player in that game, not Trevor Lawrence. Steel Chambers' team beat Trevor Lawrence that day. Um, so, anywho, and he was a pure linebacker, and I always thought Steel Chambers was underranked coming out of high school because he came in as a running back and not as a linebacker, and then he switched to linebacker, and I'm like, okay, if he's playing linebacker, he's got a lot of ability and all of that. But again, I do love Steel Chambers and stuff. It's I will say Tommy Eichenberg is the one I really have problems with, but I will say this: Cody Simon came in yesterday for Steele when Steele was struggling against the run and stuff. And I will say that as much as I do like Steel Chambers, Cody Simon should be starting over Steel Chambers. He's bigger, longer. Uh, Honestly, you look at Cody Simon now and you look at his measurables, I think he's like 6'2, 230.
Yeah.
He looks like a player that would be starting at Georgia or Alabama. He's that
Mhm.
type of dude. Now, and everything you just said is correct. Now, we need somebody to take Eichenberg's job.
Yeah.
The linebackers are the defense's only weakness. Because there was a play yesterday. I don't know if you saw it or like the replay on Peacock, because I know you say you weren't watching it live. They
Well,
ran like a
I did
stretch
watch it
play.
live, but only like the first half and parts of the second half because we had a football game. My son had a football game
Mhm.
this weekend, and it was on Saturday this week instead of Sunday, so I didn't get to see the whole game.
Okay. So there was a play where Purdue ran like stretch or something to like the boundary side.
Mhm.
Tommy Eichenberg gave me some tough Borland nightmares, like visions. Like, what
Yeah.
in the hell? He could not get out there. He was in a dead sprint, and the guy, like, he had the angle. He could not get out there. He looked so fucking slow. And he's not even like making plays in the backfield anymore. At least Steel Chambers can like cover a little bit. Tommy Eichenberg, I'm starting to think like, what does he give this defense outside of just making tackles against like power run teams and stuff? But the best teams don't run that style, everybody. We need to have players in there that are more diverse from a skill set perspective.
Yeah, all of what you're saying, I think is true, but Tommy Eichenberg is never going anywhere as long as he's healthy. He will never go anywhere. Jim Knowles
Dude.
loves, loves, loves Tommy Eichenberg. So, we can think that there's better options all we want. And I think that the ceiling is obviously way, way higher for the guy that's sitting behind him right now. But it's never going to happen unless Tommy gets hurt. And I don't wish that on anybody. Unless Tommy gets hurt, it's just not going to happen this year.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I would like it to be CJ Hicks, man. I would really like it. I would like it for, him to take over and stuff, but at this point, we don't really know what we have with him. We know he's big, we know he's fast, we know he fits like the physical profile of what we're looking for in a linebacker, but I know he
Great point, Jay, because there was some very important recruiting fodder that Jim Knowles recklessly threw out to the top teams of the Southeastern Conference this week. Is he was asked in the press conference that very question. Is he just not good enough?
Okay.
The press asked Jim Knowles, like, is he just not ready? He's a high 5-star. This is his second year. Is he just not ready? And Jim Knowles says, no, he is ready. It's just that he has two older guys that are in front of him right now.
He said that?
Yes, that's what he says. So
Who asked him that question? Do you know which beat
I,
reporter asked?
well,
Was it Doug Lamreese?
Yeah, I think it might have been Buckeye.com. If it wasn't the Buckeye Talk guys, they're the ones that reported on it because that's where I heard it from. That's where I heard that little tidbit about the press conference.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, that's a good question to ask.
And that's a bad response
That
because
is a bad
now they're going to
response.
tell all the top linebackers in the country if they're not an Ohio kid or even a Midwest kid, they've got great recruiting against you. You know, hey, do you hear what the defensive coordinator says? He says it doesn't matter if you're good enough to play there. If you're an underclassman, you're going to sit the bench. We play our young players here at Alabama. We play our young players here at Georgia. We play our young players here at LSU or Ole Miss or whatever, you know.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that was a really stupid thing for Knowles to say.
Yeah, I would agree. He's definitely got. I mean, it's too late now. I mean, you can't put him in there against Penn State, or maybe you can. I don't know. I just, Tommy Eichenberg, just watch for it this week, man. Penn State's going to go after him in the passing game. They're going to go after Steel Chambers in the running game. So Cody Simon's a good mix of both. Like he can play the run and the pass. So there was a play yesterday that Cody Simon made, and I was like, wow, Tommy Eichenberg would have never made that play. So
No, our two linebackers are not overly athletic guys. They're not. I
no,
mean, they're really
no.
not.
So now that we're talking about the linebackers, I will say this about the defense. Um, the defense overall, I would really compare it to like 2019.
Mhm.
Like the defense, we've had enough games at this point, and I can say that they're probably on the level of 2019. They might be a little bit more athletic overall,
Yep.
but they don't have Chase Young in the front four to get pressure like that. Tui Malau is starting to come on. Give him credit. He is starting to create some pressure.
Yep.
They are rotating Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson. Finally, thank God. Defensive tackles are not rotating much. They only rotate with like the three guys, I believe. Ty Hamilton, Michael Hall, and fuck, man, our best defensive tackle is like I'm losing. Who the hell we're talking about?
Ty Hamilton, Michael Hall, and
Tyleik Williams.
yeah,
Yeah,
William.
Tyleik Williams. Yeah. Yeah, they're really only rotating those three, so that could become a problem. I know, like in the fourth quarter, I don't count that because those aren't like. I mean, the game was like over then. You have to really pay attention to
Well, that's what I'm
the
saying
game at hand.
about Styles. Like, did he even get in the fourth quarter in this game? Did he get any reps, or did he leave
Are you
Tommy out
talking
there
about
literally?
Alex Sunny Styles?
I'm sorry, not Sonny Styles. I'm talking about C.J. Hicks at linebacker.
He played in the fourth quarter. He played
He
in the
did play
fourth
in the
quarter.
fourth
Yeah,
quarter.
he did
Okay.
play in the
Well, at
fourth
least they
quarter.
got
Yes.
him in then. I didn't see that part of the game.
Okay, yeah, he did play in the fourth quarter. I don't really know. I'd have to go back and like watch him specifically. He didn't stand out, but I
Mhm.
am glad that he at least played. But defense reminds me a lot of 2019 because like we said before, the linebackers are the weakness. They're like I said, they're a little bit more athletic defense in 2019 overall. Um, Nobody is as bad as Tough Borland on this defense. Nobody. As bad as Eichenberg and Steele are, they're not as bad as Tough Borland. Although I don't think that Eichenberg and Steele are as good as Malik Harrison. So that kind of offsets that a little bit.
Mhm.
Malik Harrison is a dude.
Yeah.
Continuing on with the defense, more bringing back to 2019. I mean, even though I like the 2019 defense, they were overrated. So hopefully this defense continues to grow so they become better than 2019 because 2019's defense failed us like in the most clutch time. But continuing on,
I think it's going
Dave,
to have to be better because you can't count on this offense to score 35 points.
I might disagree with you there, but I'll get back
Okay.
to that. Davison Inganosen is our best number 2 corner we've had since Damon Arnett,
Mhm.
which is crazy because I actually think Jermaine Matthews from Cincinnati Winton Woods, who you just mentioned Winton Woods, and I told you that I would refer to a player later on. He is
Yeah.
that guy. And I think Jermaine Matthews is actually better than him right now as a true freshman. That kid, whenever I see him, he has the it factor. Capital letters, it factor.
Well, didn't I tell you
In
that
coverage.
when I went and watched him in high school? Didn't I tell you that I
Yeah,
thought he was
you
going to be
did. You
good?
told me you went to the game against Kings.
Yeah. I mean, he had the true fifth gear. You know, he's an athlete and he's just a player.
He is so he like you just see it. You can watch somebody be like that dude can play. That
Hmm.
dude can't play. Like I usually can see it. I know what I'm looking for. He has the it factor, fast and physical. I mean, he's only 5'11", so he's not like a specimen walking around like Abe Benosin walking around at 6'2".
Hmm.
But he really does remind me of Denzel Ward
Hmm.
when he got started in 2015 because he made a name for himself as a gunner on kickoff. It was always the first one down there. Do I think Jermaine Matthews is as fast as Denzel Ward? I do not. Do I think he can become like a similar type player? Yes, I do. He might even be more physical than Denzel Ward because, he's making tackles. He's making, like he's very physical in coverage. He is going to be Ohio State's. If Denzel Burke is not a first round pick, I believe Jermaine Matthews will be.
Yeah.
I'm saying that right now.
I agree. I think it's very possible he could. I'm very high on him. Now,
Yeah.
Jay, this is the biggest week of the season. I mean, this is the biggest test thus far. We can certainly say that Notre Dame win is looking better after what happened with USC the other night, but nevertheless, this is maybe Notre Dame is a top 10 team. Maybe Notre Dame is just outside that top 10. Maybe they're 12, 13, somewhere in there. But this Penn State team is a true top 10 team. I don't know if they're a top 5 team, but I definitely think they're a top 10 team. And it's going to be at home. And this, I think, is going to tell us a lot about what our chances are going into Ann Arbor, because this is going to be a pretty good team that they are going to come up against in Columbus next weekend.
Penn State's a very good team. I agree. This is, man, I was really like starting to wonder about this, like who's better between Notre Dame and Penn State. Everybody's saying how great Penn State's defense is and stuff, but I don't know that Penn State's defense is better than Notre Dame's. I'd say they're probably pretty even. Like Notre Dame is better in the back four and secondary and stuff. Penn State's better probably in the front seven from just creating pressure, but I don't think their run defense is as good as Notre Dame's. And I'll tell you why. I know that Penn State's defense is ranked number one in the country. It's hard to say if they are. Maybe they are. Maybe they aren't. But their sample size has not given us anything to work with. The best team they played all season was West fucking Virginia. And that score looked bad late because Penn State scored with like a minute to go in the freaking game. Like,
yeah,
they
well, their
won the
offense
game.
is not anything spectacular, but
No, their offensive line
is that
tough.
defense as built? And if it's better than Notre Dame's, then they're going to have a little better game plan than they did against Notre Dame to win this game. Because I do think that as unspectacular as their offense is, I just think they're a better overall team than Notre Dame. And I think that it very well could take more than 17 points to win this game.
Oh, it probably is going to take more than 17 points to win, but I don't think Penn State's offense is any better than Notre Dame. So I guess now that you think about it, James Franklin, I think, is a better coach than Marcus Freeman. So I guess Penn State has the edge there. On a neutral field, who wins, Penn State or Notre Dame? Who do you think wins?
Penn State or Notre Dame?
On a neutral field, like let's say they played in Dallas, Texas.
I think it could go either way. I really do think Penn State would win just because Notre Dame's offense is so bad that I think that Penn State defense would swallow it up and it would not score a lot of points. And I think that they would have enough playmaking and athleticism on offense to be able to edge them out. So I would take Penn State.
Man, that would be a great game. And I would probably give Penn State this much of it, over Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got more talent than them in the, based on the recruiting rankings talent composite, which is, I know they did lose to Louisville last week and everything, but again, I hate Notre Dame and stuff. And I'm not trying to say I feel bad for them, but having to play Ohio State at Duke at Louisville, that is a freaking tough road, man.
And
That
then
is a
USC.
really tough fucking road. Yeah, and then USC.
Mhm.
But anywho, I will say this about Penn State. Number one, Ryan Day historically coaches pretty bad against Penn State. He's undefeated against them, but for
Yeah.
the most part, we underperform against them as a team. Now, I don't
Yeah.
know if that's just Ryan Day like catching his big game syndrome thing and like puckering up and calling games bad, but for the most part, he doesn't coach well against Penn State. And 2019, that game plan was one of the worst offensive game plans I've ever seen. It's not spoken about enough, but Ryan Day cost Ohio State the season in that game. And the reason I say this is because all Ohio State did was run spread option, run the ball all game. Penn State was susceptible to the pass. They were not a very good pass defense because in their bowl game and the Cotton Bowl against, I think it was Memphis, they got shredded through the air. Now, granted, Memphis couldn't stop their run game, but Penn State's pass defense was horrific. All Ohio State did was run Dobbins the entire game. He got hurt. And then at the end of the game, Justin Fields got hurt with his knee, which then limited him against Clemson later on. Nobody talks about that, though.
Well, it was very strange because most of the year he had babied Fields and didn't want Fields running. And then all of a sudden that game, I don't know if Fields was just taking off regardless of what they wanted, but yeah, it was kind of strange that, he ends up getting him hurt running because it was very clear that he didn't want him to run. He was trying everything he could to get him not to run, but Fields was just such a talented runner. But as far as this edition of the Penn State, Ohio State, I think you've got two quarterbacks that both are finding their way. One's a little older. I think that he's a little farther along. He certainly has better weapons than Drew Aller. Drew Aller doesn't have fantastic weapons. And so, I think that you probably would give Penn State a small edge or at least some edge on the offensive line. As far as compared to our offensive line, I'm not necessarily saying that their O-line is better than our D-line, but I'm saying I think their O-line is at least as good or better than our offensive line. Because our offensive line is not fantastic. Hopefully they'll start taking steps like they did this week, but it's definitely a weak point. And so that's a concern of mine because this isn't Purdue. So can they take what they did against Purdue and can they do something similar and open up, 100 yards rushing? I mean, because if they can do that, that helps Kyle out a lot. If they can't run the ball at all and they're running the ball for 2 and 2.5 yards a carry, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Kyle, and Penn State's going to peel their ears back and they're going to come after him.
I don't expect Ohio State's going to have a lot of running success in this game. Penn State's defense is very good. I don't know that it's elite though. And again, I would not really try and run the ball that much in this game. And you know why? When I look at Penn State's defense, they're statistically really good. They're probably pretty fast. But when I look at their secondary, this is not Notre Dame's secondary. So they got on one side, they have Kalen King, who's 5'11". Johnny Dixon is 6 feet, their other corner. They have, one of their safeties is only 6 feet tall. And then their nickel guy, who is supposedly their best DB, Daquan Hardy, is only 5'9". So they don't really have a lot of size or length in their back four. So our receivers with their size and strength should be able to get open. And again, it's really going to come down to, do we pass protect enough? Because like I mentioned earlier in the show, Purdue was blitzing a lot and they did get to McCord. But when he actually was able to let the ball go and his receivers didn't drop the fucking ball, hello, Marvin and Julian Fleming once, we destroyed them. And we will do the same to their secondary too, if he has time to throw. Because Penn State is going to blitz like their hair is on fire. They always do against Ohio State. They always blitz the hell out of Ohio State. And why wouldn't they? They would. Again, Ohio State is Penn State's biggest rival. No matter what happens, not saying that Penn State's going to play their best game of the year, but they're going to play their hardest game of the year. And they will throw the house at Ohio State because we are their rival. Don't ask me why. I don't know why we are, but we are. They treat us like their rival. Not even
because they
Michigan,
never win. I
not
mean,
Maryland.
they don't win very much. I mean, they just don't. And so if you are a really good team, like a program that's just, you know, oftentimes under that elite level, but you're still a very good football team, and you just constantly get beat by another program, like constantly, like they would probably become my biggest rival too.
Man, I mean, is it really a rivalry if like one team's winning all the time? I don't know. I
Well,
guess they look at it like a
yeah,
rivalry.
I
I
mean,
mean, I guess everybody in the conference should be our rival, right? None of them beat
I
us,
think it is just
except Michigan.
because I think it is just because they're always close games, and you know it's always going to be a dogfight. Like you know, it's
That is true.
generally not a blowout either way. And you know, Penn State is almost always ranked in the top 12 or 14. And so it's not like it's an uncompetitive game. It's just that Ohio State generally always wins, and like they have for like the last 20 years.
Man, I just realized that Penn State's last two quarterbacks are from Ohio. Drew Allers from Ohio, Sean Clifford from Saint Xavier.
Yeah.
And along those lines, I will also say this. This is probably a hot take. You know, Drew Aller is looked at as some kind of quarterback god. I don't see how. I think he has a strong arm, but he's a statue. I really do believe that Sean Clifford, at least Sean Clifford's last couple of years, was a better quarterback than Drew Aller is now. I really think so. Penn State on offense is not as good as they were last year. They don't have like a dynamic receiver like Parker Washington, like, you know, who shredded Ohio State last year. You
Mm-hmm.
remember that receiver?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yep. And so they also lost a first round corner off of last year's team.
Yeah, so they don't have Joey Porter Jr. either. Like, again,
Mm-hmm.
I just named their like diminutive secondary.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have Joey Porter Jr. like back there, like in coverage either. And he was, again, like I think the NFL, I think he was like the 31st or 32nd.
Yeah,
Like
he was right at the end of the first round.
Somebody lost. No, he was actually the beginning of the second. He was yeah, but like somebody lost a first round pick. So like by like the number of picks, he was a first round pick, but he was actually a second round pick.
Okay.
So it really cost the Big Ten like the first round pick edge over the SEC.
Yeah.
Kind of sucks, but it is what it is. Yeah, man. Man, who was that other receiver? Penn State had like a receiver that went in like the second round a couple of years ago. Oh, what the hell is his name? Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson. They don't have Parker Washington or Jahan Dotson.
That's part of the thing with Penn State is like the years go by and like you don't ever really remember their receivers. Like they have a few good ones from now and then, but it's never like you remember like, oh, like this guy from Penn State. Like they just don't have those type of offensive players, and that's what they're missing. Oftentimes that kind of keeps them in that second tier is they're very good teams. They just don't have that.
Yeah.
They don't have that playmaker.
Well, they don't this year. Those two guys were, but they don't have that guy this year. They definitely don't. I agree. Like with half of what you said, I do remember definitely Parker Washington because he just shredded Ohio State last year. But Ohio State's pass defense was fucking terrible last year. So
yeah. So I mean that's what I mean. They got shredded by every good team they played.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, they did. So again, I don't want to talk about last year. Last year was a failure, even though Ohio State should have won the national championship. But that's in the past. So, but yeah, I'm looking at their personnel and offense.
I'm just saying Penn State's offense doesn't scare me, and it
does not scare me at all. It does not. Now, what does scare me again, like I mentioned before, is Penn State's going to blitz the house at Ohio State. They're going to do a lot of trick plays. Expect the unexpected is what I'm going to say, because they know if they win this game, they're going to win the Big Ten because they have Michigan at home, and it's probably going to be a night game. So if they win this game, they win the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That's I mean, they know that.
There's two massive games for Ohio State, and we all know what they are. They're this week, and they're Michigan.
Right. Our Notre Dame game was a massive game. We passed barely.
No, I'm talking about left on the schedule.
Yes. No. Well, yes, I would agree.
And Wisconsin is certainly a game that you don't need to sleep in going into Madison at night. But there's two really big games left, and one of them's this week. So I'm excited to see what they can do, Jay. I don't really have any angst going into this game. Honestly, I have got I think maybe I spent some time getting myself right, because I'm very peaceful going into this game. I feel
You have a sense of
optimistic, but
serenity.
I feel serenity. I feel optimistic, but I also feel that, if somehow they don't get it done, that, that kind of tells us something too, that they just maybe didn't have it this year. And so, I'm looking forward to see what they can produce. I have a score that I'm going to give as soon as we're ready to wrap this up. I've thought about this score all day. And so I think it's a pretty good score. I was a few points off last week. I've been under, I've been under their points the last couple of times I've made predictions. I've gone a little less than what they've actually gotten, but I feel good about it. But I'm just excited to see what they can go out there and do, because they've got a lot to win. They certainly do have a lot to lose as well. But I mean, let's face it. Ryan Day, if he had to pick, if it was totally in his control, and they said, Ryan, you get to choose. You have to lose a game this year. Do you want to lose to Michigan, or do you want to lose to Penn State? You don't get any other choice other than you have to lose one. I can almost guarantee you Ryan Day is going to pick Penn State every time, since he's being forced to pick a loss. So what I'm saying is, if they did lose to Penn State, you still get to go to Michigan and give them your shot, to try and save the season.
Yeah,
So the
dude.
season's not over.
Well, you lose to Penn State and you lost the Big Ten for sure. I think. Well, no, you probably.
What if Michigan beats Penn State, and then Ohio State beats Michigan?
Then we're looking at like a
three-way tie.
2005 thing.
Yeah.
Again, if you remember that year, because Penn State beat Ohio State. Ohio State.
Back in those days, the Big Ten broke the tiebreaker by giving it to the team that hadn't been to the championship most recently. Wasn't that ridiculous? Surely they've changed that rule. But if they kept that goofy rule in place, it would be Penn State that would get the tiebreaker, because it's been the longest since they've been to the championship game. But I don't know how they do the tiebreakers now.
Yeah, I don't know about the tiebreakers and stuff, man. But I will say this. Losing at home to Penn State, I know Penn State's a really good team. I don't think they're a top 5 team. I do think they're barely a top 10 team. But losing at home to Penn State would be a seriously bad look on Ryan Day. Like, serious bad look.
I have serenity.
You're at home. You're at home.
Or lose.
But, weird things happen against Penn State. Again, Ohio State's going to have to come out and throw the ball with conviction and down the field, because Penn State, we're not going to be able to run the ball on them, even though their defensive, again, I said their secondary is smaller. Their defensive line is not big. I think they're fast and they get after you. The guy that I'm looking at the most on their defense, I'm like, okay, that dude is Abdul Carter. He's a sophomore from like the Philadelphia area. He's like 6'3" or 6'4", so he is like a thoroughbred linebacker, like a dude that would be starting at Alabama or Georgia. He is that kind of guy. That's the guy I'm scared of the most, and he has a lot of length. He's going to be, he can drop and cover a lot of ground and really cover up Stover and anything in the middle of the field. So Ohio State's going to have to be aware of him, but I would be launching it down the field to Harrison or Carnell Tate, or, if Abuka's healthy, to him. I would be testing those smaller corners if I were Ohio State. But again, this is what I worry about. If Ohio State comes out and actually coaches the way they should, I would be in your boat. But the problem is Ryan Day always underperforms against Penn State, and always, as good, all the steps we take with Purdue yesterday, we could take 2 steps back against Penn State, because all he does is pucker up against them. Like, I don't know what it is.
If they take 2 steps back, they're going to get beat.
Yes, it could happen. What I'm saying is it could happen.
Back to the Maryland game, they're going to get beat. Like, the team that went out to play Maryland's probably not going to beat Penn State.
Probably not. Not. Although Maryland, I thought they were a decent team, and then they got beat at home by Illinois. So what the fuck do I know? And yeah, man, again, like, that's my biggest worry. My biggest worry is Ryan Day in a big game, because, still in big games, even though he wins some of them, he doesn't coach the way he should. He doesn't call the plays in like the flow of the game. Like, there are some things that are there, and he still calls like to the defense's strong point. Like, why? Why are you doing that? That's
He
typical
might do
Ryan
it this
Day.
time. He might come out. He might be loose Ryan Day.
Again, I'm saying if Ohio State comes out throwing the ball, I'm going to start feeling good. If they start trying to like play in a box, I'm like, okay, we're in trouble here. But
yeah, you got to come out throwing it, and then if they throw it, I think that they can get some run traction as well. But you're not gonna probably run it down this team's throat. Now, Jay,
Penn State is going to like play their hardest game of the year. Hardest game of the year.
and that's why I
No, before you get to prediction,
you're always cutting. You're always cutting off my predictions right when I'm about to drop
I can't let you do the prediction yet because I have to say that there is another good. Again, we kind of mentioned this, but there is one thing that in good news that happened yesterday for Ohio State.
What?
Notre Dame beat USC, so we have a good win on our schedule again.
Yeah, we mentioned that briefly.
Yeah, briefly, but I just want to make it clear that they did beat USC, and we were comparing them to Penn State, but. That I'm just happy Notre Dame won. But I will say this: did you watch that game?
I did. Looked really bad. USC looked really bad. They've got a horrible offensive line. They've got a terrible defense. And Caleb Williams was not impressive when he was, under duress. I saw a quarterback that was so used to hitting these big, easy chunks that he wouldn't be patient and take the stuff that was there, and he started forcing things, and it was ugly. It was bad.
Yeah. I will say this. That game was a lot closer than the final score said. Even though, I will say this, if USC only turns the ball over like once, maybe twice at the most, that game could have been anybody's ball game towards the end because Notre Dame's offense, they lost that battle. They only had like 250 some yards of offense. That seemed to have been ignored. USC's defense of the
but that's how bad Notre Dame's offense is.
Yeah,
that
that's
they
what I'm
can't
about to say.
score on USC's.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't rack up a bunch of yards on a USC defense. Like that's how bad their offense is.
Yeah, Notre Dame's offense lost the battle against USC's defense at the inept sides for both teams. However, Notre Dame's defense won the war against USC's offense and then some. That's where the game was won because they forced all of those turnovers, which I did not expect. If USC would have just played a more conservative game and not turned the ball over, they absolutely could have won because Notre Dame couldn't move the ball on them. Not really at all. And then I'll add one more thing. This guy has been hyped up as like some superstar and stuff. Maybe he was hurt, but do you know that Zachariah Branch from USC?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody was saying like, oh, he's a human highlight machine, this, that, and the other. He's good. He's overrated. I'm saying that right now. That dude is overrated.
They still don't play defense in the Pac-12. Don't buy the Pac-12 hype. They still don't play defense out there for the most part.
Not just that. And I'll tell you why I know he's overrated. Because the best players who are supposedly speedsters don't get caught like he did. He got caught by a kicker on like a punt return. Ted Ginn would have never got caught. Devin Hester would have never got caught. Deion Sanders would have never got caught. The best players who are real speed, Joey Galloway, they would not have been caught by that guy. They would have scored. Now, maybe he was hurt, but he is not like a true burner. He is not.
No. And last thing I'll say before I make my prediction is if you watch the Oregon game, the Oregon coach flat out lost the game. By making poor decisions, he left 3 points on the board in the first half. Then the second half, he goes trying to chase those points instead of just taking the 3 points that are in front of him. Then he gets himself in a position where he's got another third big fourth down call, and he goes for it again. And now he's lost the game. So if
they would have kicked those 2 field goals, they would have won.
If he would have kicked one of the field goals, he's going to overtime.
Right.
If he would have just not made 2 mistakes and would have just learned from his first mistake, then he would have still been at least going to overtime. But he lost him the game. So
no, I agree.
That being said, thank goodness Ryan Day hasn't done any coaching like that this year, because if Ryan Day coached a game like that, I would be absolutely the rage would be coming out. The peace and the tranquility that I'm feeling tonight would no longer be with me.
That might come in a week from now, man. But I will say, before you go with your prediction, Oregon is a better team than Washington. I still believe that.
They outplayed
Washington.
Them.
They look more talented. Just Dan Lanning fucked up, man. It's really not much to say. But Go ahead, Michael. I know you've been waiting for your prediction, man. Let's hear it, bro. Let's hear it. Let's
Thought about
hear
it a
your
lot.
prediction.
And my prediction is I'm also going again with a lower scoring type of game. My prediction is Ohio State 27, Penn State 21. I think it's going to be a close one. And I think Ohio State's going to pull it out.
Do you want me to make a prediction too? Because I'm going to
have to
really think about this.
Every week you follow with the prediction.
Man, I could really see this going two ways. But I'm not going to say which way those two ways are going to go.
We can't pick Ohio State to lose, even if we think they can. We can't do it.
I am going to predict Ohio State to win 28-17.
Okay. Pretty comfortable.
Because I do believe, and again, I guess I'm hoping, praying, that Ryan Day comes out and throws the ball. Because if he does, Ohio State will win decisively because Penn State is not as talented as us. I don't care what anybody says. They are not. Go look at the talent composite. Go look at the NFL draft projections. Like Penn State has like one guy who's projected to be a first-round pick. Ohio State has like 3 or 4 guys that could be projected to be first-round picks right now. They don't have as much talent as us. James Franklin, I do believe he's a solid coach. I would not say he's any better than Ryan Day. They do not, as many faults as I have with Ryan Day, as many faults as Ryan Day has as a big game coach, the same could be said for James Franklin. He doesn't usually coach his best in big games, but he does coach his best against Ohio State for the most part. So I don't know. Ohio State being at home, big game, a lot of steps forward against for Purdue, and it really felt like we kind of even cashed it in a little bit against Purdue. It just has me feeling confident that Ohio State will get it done decisive. It's not going to be comfortable, but I do believe we will pull away, and it's not going to come down to like the last play or anything.
All right, there it is. You got it 28-17. I got it 27-21. Both of us have the Buckeyes winning in Columbus against top 10 Penn State, covering the spread. And we will be back next week to see if Jay and I were right and to see if next week is a celebration of a big win on the road to Ann Arbor or if it is a big roadblock in this team's quest to reclaim the Big Ten title and return to the playoffs. So, Jay, that's all I got for today. You got anything else to add before we sign off?
Yeah, one thing. I actually am going to the game. I'm going to the game this week. Yeah, going to the game this week, driving up on Thursday. So I'm going to be staying with the parents for a couple days, going to the game Saturday. So hopefully I can give the team luck. I mean, the last game I was in attendance for that Ohio State lost was 2021 Oregon. That was painful. So hopefully I can bring the team luck. I'm going to have a different kind of perspective watching the game from my seats up in C deck. I think that's where the seats are, but I don't fucking know for sure.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm excited for it. Definitely excited. Looking forward to going back up to Ohio. Haven't been up there since the summertime. So
sounds good. Got to get back in the Buckeye State. That's where it's at. Thank you, everybody.
Greatest state in the world.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will be back next week.